Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast and iTunes' #1 kids and family podcast. I tell you, that multilingual greeting, it is absolutely appropriate for our show today. Our guest today is Ricky Shetty. He is the driving force behind DaddyBlogger.com, and he and his family have a goal of traveling all around the world. You are just going to love this guest. He is fascinating. Hey, this is Jedley. You know, for years, I struggled to get back to a healthy weight. I had been an athlete all throughout high school and college. And then when I got into the real world and had a job as a social worker, well, I got to tell you, I just forgot about exercise and I ate my way to a very, very unhealthy life. It would have been so much easier for me to get back to that healthy lifestyle that I loved in high school and college if I had a tool like Chronometer. We're really happy that the folks at Chronometer have decided to become sponsors and supporters of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. And you can find out all about their great product at our website, readingwithyourkids.com/fitness. readingwithyourkids.com/fitness. I mean, this is a great, great tool. It's a really great tool. It helps. Not only does it help you track your calories and help you track your exercise, but it also helps you track your nutrition. You know, you're just going on a diet and reducing calories. It's not the right way to go. You need to make sure that you're still having the right amounts of nutrients and proteins and the mix and all that kind of stuff. That's why Chronometer is so very useful. It's really easy to use. It helps you track 60-plus nutrients for 200,000-plus foods. And like I said, it lets you log your diet, your exercise, your biometrics. You put notes in there. It helps you make custom foods and recipes. It even has a mobile app so you can log on the go. You can check it all out and also check it out for free at our website, readingwithyourkids.com/fitness. Joining us on the line right now, well, I don't know where he is because this man with his family, they're traveling all over the world. They have a goal of visiting every single country in the world, and he's currently writing a series of books called Exploring the Continents. Please welcome to the show, Ricky Shetty. Ricky, how are you?
I'm doing amazing, Jad. How are you doing today, my friend?
Wonderful, wonderful. And whereabouts in the world are you right now?
I'm currently in the northern Philippines, about 7 hours north of Manila, the capital.
Ah, fantastic. And the Philippines, I'm amazed to learn. It's actually a collection of, 700 different islands?
You got to add a zero. It's actually 7,000 plus islands. So there's a lot of islands to explore in this amazing country.
Holy moly. That's it. It could take a lifetime to visit all 7,000 islands in the Philippines.
You know what, Jed? I don't think it'll just be one lifetime. I think it'll be multiple lifetimes. Most Filipinos haven't been to over 100 islands, let alone 7,000 plus islands. So you'll definitely need a few lifetimes to cover it all.
Absolutely. Now, where did you get this goal of visiting every? Visiting every continent as a family is a huge goal. But you have a goal of visiting every country.
Yes, that is right, Jed. Where did we get the goal? Well, in my early 20s, I'd already become an avid backpacker. I was traveling around solo in my 20s. First, I taught English in Japan, then traveled around Asia. Then I worked in England, then traveled around Europe. Then I studied in Australia, then I traveled around Australia and New Zealand. And then when I got married, as you do when you get married, you kind of leave the travel behind, and then you start having the kids. So I got married to my lovely wife, Anne, and then we had 3 kids in a row. We have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And then around the time when our youngest son was being born, I started having conversation with my wife about, hey, don't you want to show our kids the world and, travel and live more adventurously? And at first she was very reluctant, but after many lengthy conversations, she finally agreed to try it out and do it for a year. And that took a lot of convincing and persuading, but she agreed. And, she said, if at any point I don't like it, the kids don't like it, we'll turn back. So we decided to do that. We decided to trial it for a year. But here we are, a year and a half later, and we're still going. And we have been together to 30 plus countries as a family. I personally have been to 81 countries on 6 continents. And in terms of why we decided to have that goal, when I looked at all these countries and I was like, okay, where do we want to stop? Do we just want to see every country in Asia? Do we want to see every country in South America? And then I started doing some research. I was like, okay, how many people have actually been to every country in the world? And there's only about 200 total people in the history of the human race that have been to every single country on the planet. And there's actually a cool little stat here, Jed, which I think your listeners will love. There have been more people who have been to outer space than who've been to every single country in the world. So it's a very small amount, like a couple hundred people. Mm-hmm. And out of those couple hundred, it's been mostly single people and mostly male and mostly couples. Well, not mostly couples, but some couples. So it's basically been mostly single males, some female, and a few couples. But no families have done it. No minors have done it. No kids and no one under the age of 18. So we decided that why not us? Eventually someone's going to get there, and we are passionate about travel, and we've already done a lot. Our kids are only like 6, and they've been to quite a lot of countries already. So that's a big, hairy, they call it the bag, big, hairy, audacious goal. And it's really it feels far off, like 193 feels like such a big number. But I look at it just like one country at a time, one continent at a time. Like, for example, we went to South America last year. And we just did that. We started in Brazil. We did every single country in South America. We did 12 out of 12. And then we went to Central America. There's 8 countries in Central America, from Mexico to Panama. We did 8 out of 8. And then, North America, from Canada, US, Mexico. So we've done all of the continental Americas. We haven't done as much the Caribbean. And then, we're able to do that. So it gives us hope that if we're able to do all the continental Americas, Asia, the hardest are obviously going to be some of Africa will be quite tough, and of course some parts of the Middle East that are in kind of a war situation, like Afghanistan or Iraq or Iran. Like any of these kind of countries will be a little bit tougher. But yeah, that's a big goal, and that definitely drives us and also inspires others as well.
Wow, fantastic! Well, it's good to know that we've been to 3 of the same countries. We just came back. My wife and I just visited Panama, had a wonderful time. And of course, I live in the States and traveled extensively through Canada. And I guess I kind of feel special that I visited a country. Well, it's part of the United States, but I've been down to Puerto Rico and the Caribbean. So maybe that's a place you haven't been to. So maybe I'm up on you there. But as far as the rest of the world goes, you got me beat.
You are correct indeed. I have not been to Puerto Rico yet, and technically it's not a different country, right? And this is always the dilemma about territories. Like, for example, I've been to Aruba, but Aruba is technically not a separate country. It's part of the Netherlands, and we've been to French Guiana, and that's not technically another country. And also we've been to Taiwan. And Taiwan is technically part of China. So there's all these kind of countries that are not official. And when I talk about the official number, it's the United Nations. So the United Nations member states. And there's some kind of countries that are a little bit, or areas of the world that are a little bit more contentious, like the Taiwan, for example, or Kosovo, or the Vatican, or Palestine. But yeah, most people who are counting countries or who are aiming for that mark will use the United Nations member states as the definition of the number of countries in the world.
Well, who am I to argue with the United Nations? Absolutely not.
Exactly.
How are the kids now? Again, as we came back from Panama, we had a wonderful time, beautiful part. If a lot of people here when I said we were going to Panama, a lot of people said, "Why?" And we just kind of picked it. We went down. We had a really wonderful time. But coming back, there was a family, and we ran into some trouble. And while transferring planes in Miami, we visited 2 different terminals and 5 different gates, waiting for our plane to finally pick a gate so we could leave 5 hours late. But there was a family there, and there was a mom, and she was traveling with her 3-year-old and 3 or 4 month old. And boy, I got to tell you, when that flight that didn't take off at 7:00 at night, finally took off at 12 midnight, that little 3 or 4 year old boy, he was not a happy camper. And we were helping, my wife and I were helping the mom and the kids get around. What's it like with your kids? Have they become seasoned travelers and used to the airports and the delays and things like that?
Yes, exactly. Like this is how I look at it. Like when we first started, we had all the fears. You know, the fears of the long flights, fear of the long buses, the trains, like the fear of the temper tantrums and like the meltdowns and the sibling rivalry, all that kind of stuff. And it still happens. I want to be truthful and honest there. Like they all still throw tantrums and fight each other, and that's going to happen no matter where in the world you are. But in terms of adjustment and adaptation, they've actually learned how to take long flights and learned how to take long bus rides. And they don't complain as much. Like we traveled extensively in South America, as I mentioned. And if you can picture South America, it's a big continent.
Sure.
And we did the whole continent without flying, with the exception into the Amazon, because there's no road access to the Amazon jungle rainforest. Mm-hmm. So that was the only place we had to fly in and fly out of. But aside from that, we did the whole, we went from Colombia to Ecuador to Peru to Bolivia to Chile to Argentina to Uruguay, Paraguay, all 100% overland. So you can imagine they're long bus rides. So they get really creative. They start playing games and, they start, we'll have activities and puzzles for them. One thing we don't do screen time. We don't have a special tablet for them. They might watch, the occasional cartoon at the hotel TV or the Airbnb TV, but we don't just stick a tablet in front of them for the whole the bus ride or anything like that. So we're really intentional about that because if you do, they're going to lose their creativity. But if you don't, they're going to be forced to be creative. And definitely bringing activities of some sort like puzzles, games, toys, books, stickers. All that really helps if you're going to be doing flights, buses, trains, boats, anything with a lengthy duration.
Yeah. So what, other than being the first family in history to travel to every country in the world, what advantages do you see this trip giving to your kids?
Well, at the end of the day, like us moms and dads, we want to help our kids have the best possible education. Mm-hmm. And I really feel that's the case. So there's a whole bunch of types of education. You could do private schooling, you could do public schooling, you can do homeschooling, you can do what we're doing, world schooling. And I truly believe this. Travel is the best education. So I want to give them the best education. So why not do that to the form of travel? So in terms of how it's going to shape and form them, I definitely believe it's going to help strengthen their identities. They're going to be much more culturally sensitive. They are already learned languages, and they learned about different cultures. They've learned about, for example, in South Africa, they learned that animals don't belong in the zoo or aquarium. They belong in the wild. Mm-hmm. We did animal safari, and they were able to see lions and elephants and zebras and giraffes, like literally 1 or 2 meters away from them, not from the confines of a cage, but from the comfort of a Jeep in the safari. So just like experiences like that. They've learned about Latin culture in Latin America. They've learned about Asian culture over here, African culture, Middle Eastern culture when we were there. So they've learned that the culture, they've also learned about things like riches and poverty. Like one of the things we do besides just visiting all these countries is we volunteer. So we stay in a lot of orphanages. We're partnered up with SOS Children's Village. So we'll stay in the orphanage with them, and they'll really understand, man, some kids, they actually don't have parents, and some kids don't have a lot of toys, and some kids don't have the privileges like we would have back in the hometown of Canada, right? So this has really helped them shape their identity so they'll become more compassionate, and I think they'll just be better global citizens by seeing the globe. I think we all want them to be better global citizens. So I think the global part to the global citizens is only done by actually seeing the globe.
Yeah, I applaud you. We've tried to give that idea to our kids as they were growing. They're young adults right now, and we didn't have the resources or the creativity to go on a around the world trip. So we invited the world to our home, and we hosted international students. So we've had a number of international students from all over the world with us, and my wife and I just saw one of the current hit movies. We saw that Crazy Rich Asian movie yesterday, and it was entertaining. But one of the things that was wonderful for us was as we're looking at this very different culture, different in terms because we'll never have the kind of money that was portrayed in the movie, but also it was, taking place in Asia. And there were a lot of references that we were familiar with because we had these kids living in our home and helped us become familiar with it. So I envy you. I would love to have been able to take my kids around the world.
Yeah, and we actually did that when I was younger too, by the way. Like, my parents had a lot of international students stay with us. So we had Japanese students, we had Korean, Mexican, Brazilian. And actually that spawned my interest in Japan. So when I finished my university, I was like, where do I want to see in the world? I want to go to Japan, because all along through my childhood, I had always learned about Japanese culture. These Japanese exchange students would be giving us different gifts and like souvenirs. They would be teaching about the culture. So yeah, that definitely will help your kids in terms of their future. So I think that's a great way of showing the kids the world in terms of bringing the world to them. And I also saw the movie Crazy Rich Asians just a few days ago with my wife as well, and that definitely inspires us to go to Singapore, which is highlighted in that particular movie.
Oh, yes, indeed. I think I could just be entertained in the airport. So another way, if families aren't able to pick up and travel around the world, and if families aren't in a city like Boston or Vancouver or New York where there are a lot of international students coming to study, I guess a great way to introduce our kids to the world would be through your books and through your book series.
Yes, and this is why I wrote them, Jed. Great segue there, because when I was finished my leg of South America, there's also another factor, because my kids were and are young. So there was always this question in my mind about how much will they remember? Are they going to forget everything? And how do I retain their knowledge and their experience and their memories? And of course, I'm a blogger, by the way, so DaddyBlogger.com, where I'm documenting all of our journeys. But I really felt like, let's write the book for three primary reasons. Firstly, for me, actually, to process the journey and to remember it. But ultimately, of course, for my kids, because they are probably going to forget a lot of it unless, they look at my blog and all the videos we made and the YouTube channel. And then thirdly is to inspire other families to travel, because a lot of families, especially if they're Canadian, U.S. based, they're going to do the typical travel. They're going to do Disneyland, they're going to do Mexico, they're going to do Hawaii, they might do the Caribbean. But they're not probably going to do, the first thing that's going to pop in my mind is not going to be like, let's go with our kids and check out the Amazon. Let's go with our kids and check out Machu Picchu or the Bolivian Salt Flats or, Christ the Redeemer in Rio de Janeiro or Buenos Aires. So I realized, and even for me back in Vancouver, I wasn't thinking that way. So as I decided, okay, now that we've done every country in South America, how can I relay this info in a nice, concise form rather than people checking out all my YouTube videos or blog posts? So I decided a book's a great way to do that. So I did a short book, and it's covering all 12 countries in South America, and that was a continent we just done. So I was like, okay, let's start there for the first volume. But I didn't want to just start in South America. I wanted to create the 7-continent series. So the book series is called Exploring the Continents, and it's Volume 1 South America, Volume 2 North America, Volume 3 Europe, Volume 4 Asia, then it'll be Australia, Africa, and Antarctica. And the first 3 volumes are out already. Actually, this is another cool thing I'm doing. I'm writing and launching 7 books in 7 months about the 7 continents. So I launched the first one on Father's Day in June. Second one was in July. Third one was in August, and we're doing this interview in August here. The next one will be coming out in September, and then all 7 books will be done in December. Appropriately enough, perfect timing for the Christmas shopping season.
Yes.
So I'm definitely aiming for a lot of people to buy the bundle. But actually, all 3 books that I've released have already become Amazon bestsellers. So right on the first day, I did a big book launch for all 3 books, and I have a book launch team and just my social media, blog, YouTube audience, podcast audience. They were able to buy the book and help them become Amazon bestsellers. So I highly encourage your audience to grab a copy if they're interested in travel or inspiring kids to see the world. Maybe not directly to travel themselves, but at least through the books. And in the books, I teach about language and culture, the flags, geography, history, some of the main, sightseeing attractions, some of the main cuisine. So there's a lot of learning through these books.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about it, and I think it's a fantastic idea. And as you're talking about the books and about your blog, DaddyBlogger.com, I know people out there are thinking, how in the world are you financing? How are you paying to do all this travel around the world?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's probably I always get two big questions. Firstly is the financing and the schooling. So we've already covered a little bit of the schooling. It's world schooling. We'll supplement that through YouTube videos and some homeschooling, and even here in the Philippines, we're going to be here for 6 months, so we put them in private schools. So we've tried a few different approaches there. But in terms of the money, I look at it there was 4 ways we funded this particular trip. And for anyone considering a more dramatic, longer 6 month to a year trip, I would recommend these 4 steps that we did. And it's the 4 S's. Firstly, save. Secondly, sell. Thirdly, get sponsors. And fourthly, get a salary or multiple salaries. Hopefully that helps, Jed.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, if folks are hearing this and they want to get to know more about you, get to know more about your books, and maybe have you coach them, where can they go?
Easy peasy. Definitely check out DaddyBlogger.com. That has all of my different resources on there. Links to my online courses, links to my podcast, links to my YouTube channel, all my social media, and of course links to my email. So highly recommend if you just want to learn about travel and learn about how we're able to travel the world. I'll be happy to offer any of your podcast lessons a complimentary call. Just a quick sort of strategy session to see where you're at and if I can actually help. And if there's a good fit, then we can proceed long term, and I can give your listeners obviously much more value and much more of a strategic way to travel and make money at the same time. So, Jed, it was such an honor and a pleasure to have to be on our show, and I look forward to interviewing you and flipping the roles around so I'm able to interview you on my podcast as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. The name of the book we want you to check out, the name of the book series we want you to check out is Exploring the Continents. The author is Ricky Shetty. His website is daddyblogger.com. Check it out. Ricky, thanks so much for being with us today.
And thanks for having me on. It was a joy, honor, and a pleasure.
Hey, you do not want to miss the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest, Leslie Wall, will be back to give us some great recommendations for action and adventure books that you and your kids will want to check out. Leslie Wall in the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Hey, the holidays are right around the corner. If you are a children's author, you absolutely are keeping your fingers crossed, hoping that you can sell lots and lots of books in the Christmas season. Well, we have a way that might help you reach that goal. That's right. We have a great program here called the Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read Program. It's kind of like a seal of approval, a way to help your book stand out among the amazing crowd of books that are available today. It's a way for parents to know that your book has been evaluated by our team of educators, parents, and kids, and they have thought that your book is worthy of 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, giving it that certified great read status. If you would like to have your book considered for our Reading with Your Kids certified great read program, and it is amazing. It's helped so many books so far. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Certified Great Read button. We'll let you know all about it. We want to thank Ricky Shetty for taking time away from his amazing world tour to join us today. And, of course, we want to thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your amazingly busy day. So many people are counting on you. We are so very happy, so very honored that you would take some of that time to spend with us today. Thank you so very, very much. And I absolutely cannot forget to thank you for taking time to read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.